Hello there, and welcome once more to Literary as Feck, with me, Clive Davis, and him over there,
Nick,
where we talk about the books, and this time in particular, we're talking two books by the author Fredric Brown. Fredric Brown, who lived from 1906 to 1972, I suppose is most well regarded for his short stories, right? That's his main.
although I must say I didn't actually know much about him, or I don't know if I knew about him at all before you suggesting this, and then was surprised when poking around and looking at his Wikipedia that, well, I did know him, but I didn't know that I knew him.
Right. I suppose the most kind of the bit of that some people might know is he wrote the short story Arena that became the famous Star Trek episode of the same title, and also I suppose ended up triggering a whole slew of things, right? There's a whole range of stories and films and TV which seem to have been inspired probably by the episode more than the short story, but
if you have an alien and a human fighting in an arena overseen by alien types, then you're dealing with the tropes set into place by Fredric Brown in the Arena short story. But also the two books we're talking about today, both of which had an influence on other pieces of media that I was very familiar with.
Okay. So another thing I wanted to bring up, this is something I didn't know before, and I don't know if you stumbled across this. Are you aware that he wrote considered the shortest story ever?
I think I did. I think I did. There is that famous one by Hemingway that's like four words or whatever, and it's really depressing. So I don't know if Hemingway wins for that, but
well, if it's four, it does. But this one's it's actually pretty. It's haiku like in its simplicity, I think, and I'll actually read it to you because it's so short. It's this is Knock from 1948. The last man on earth sat alone in a room. There was a knock at the door. Which is pretty good.
That is creepy.
It's almost the last man on earth, like down to its very essence, right?
I think I'm going to misquote it, but I think the Hemingway one is something along the lines of pair of baby shoes for sale, never used.
Yeah, that's fairly grim.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. So those, there we go.
Good times, Hemingway.
Anyway, enjoy the two shortest stories of all time. I
tell you, this podcast's value for money. Well, Fredric Brown, and I had read another one of his science fiction books. I'd read Martians Go Home, which is it's a comedy. It's a science fiction comedy, which, if you remember, became a film in the late 80s with Randy Quaid and yes, which I never saw, but
me neither. I remember in the video shops.
Yeah, and it just looked like I'm not watching that. But actually, after reading the book, but I can see how they might have fucked it up. Plus, I have this thing about Randy. Me and Ron have talked about this in regard to what's his face, the guy who was in the Mod Squad film remake, and he's in Avatar, and he's like one of those mid-90s teen.
The main guy from Avatar, Sam Worthington.
No. He's just in it, and it was the only other credit I could think of.
Okay.
You'll know his name. Hang on. You Phil there, Ron. Not Ron. I got the Freudian slip.
So Clive, you're presently looking up the
Giovanni Ribisi.
Okay, who you may remember, I was trying to come up with his name recently because I kept mistaking him for Giovanni Lombardo Radice, Italian
Yes,
schlock.
very different.
Yeah, but like, so I would always be disappointed when I rented a movie thinking it was going to have Lombardo Radice in it, and it instead had that fucking guy,
John Morgan.
Ribisi.
Yeah, well, the thing with Giovanni Ribisi, I have nothing against Giovanni Ribisi, but me and Ron have so there's a few people like James Legros is another one, oddly enough. Like actors who seem to have made for a part of their career, I associated them with films that were almost good.
Right.
Like, oh, that sounds like an interesting premise, and then that wasn't very good. Giovanni Ribisi, isn't it? Or James Legros.
James Legros, yeah.
Randy Quaid was that for a while. I seem to remember Randy Quaid being in a lot of films with potential, but ended up not being there before he went totally off the rails and weird, right?
Batshit, Star Whackers, hiding out in Canada. Yeah.
So so that's another reason I never saw it. But after reading the book, I might give it. The book is actually very funny and good, but I wanted to read something that wasn't comedic. I wanted to read so I decided on the mind thing, and then I thought, well, Fredric Brown seems to have been known for two things specifically, right? His science fiction and his crime. So I thought, why don't you do a double? So we're doubling the mind thing with, I think the first one we might talk about.
Yes.
Screaming Mimi, the Screaming Mimi. Yeah. So the Screaming Mimi.
So I should say I just watched the first 2/3 or 3/4 of the film with my wife and was greatly annoyed by most of it.
The black and white one from the
yes. Many of the choices made, which I think I would like to talk about if you've seen it recently. Many of the choices made in that adaptation are very poor choices in terms of milking this for all it's worth, because I think it is a good book. I think there's lots of interesting stuff going on there. I think Dario Argento, although his version is a lot further away, in some ways makes the right choices where they need to be made. But we'll talk about that.
We'll get to that, because I think the book maybe is So basically, the story is about a reporter when he's not like proper flat out being a wino. Like he's not just he's not just staying at home alcoholic. He's actually out sleeping on park benches.
Living with a guy called Godfrey, who's another full on.
And I quite appreciated this, because at the beginning of the book, you're just introduced to him as this homeless wino, right? So when, like, after a few chapters in, he suddenly smartens up and goes back to work, you're like, what? It's quite interesting.
He's a really interesting character. He's really properly an untrustworthy narrator, because he's blacked out. He basically tells you he's been blacked out for the first 4 weeks that the string of murders has been happening. So for a long time in the book, I was like, is he going to uncover himself as the killer? Right.
It's Clint Eastwood in Tightrope or something like that.
And he's also Irish.
Spoilers for the film Tightrope there.
Yes, sorry. He's also, he's also Irish, so much is made of him being a stubborn, angry Irish drunk.
Right.
In fact, did you notice? That was one thing that took me aback. That this, maybe because we had just, you and I had just finished reading Lanark, which is a very meta book. But I was surprised by how meta this is. How front and center the narrator is in commenting and jokes and wisecracks. And and I was like,
that made me think of you when he says something. He says something along the lines of, maybe you're one of them readers who likes long descriptions of what rooms look like. I don't, but anyway, here we go. He was. I think Nick would appreciate that, because I know you hate that stuff, right?
I do.
Yeah. No, it's very. I mean, to get ahead of myself, I think that one of the reasons maybe why the film doesn't work as well as the book is because ultimately the book, I think the way the story pans out and exactly what the secret is and everything isn't necessarily that great. but it's the writing that makes it fun to read, right?
Yes.
And the direction of the film lacks the wit of the writing of the book. I think maybe what the problem is.
And I think the character of William Sweeney is very much a straight ahead, up and down 1950s kind of a newspaper man, and not the semi whatever mess he is.
Right,
you know, like he's much more interesting a character because he's basically a failure. You know,
although he is incredibly talented, it seems, right? So
yes, as a writer.
So one night he's when he's in his cups, he happens across a scene, I guess, a happening, as they would call it here in Japan, where there's a crowded around like the entrance to like it's like the entrance hall to an apartment building or something, isn't it, with a glass door, and all these people are looking in, and basically there's a extremely beautiful woman who's seems to have been stabbed or is injured in some way, but no one can get.
First, I think at first she's just lying face down. People think she might be drunk.
Yes,
but nobody can get in to help because she's got this massive, terrifying Doberman inside that's growling at anyone who attempts to even put a hand on the door. And then eventually she does. She stands up and everyone gasps because it seems as though she's actually been slashed. She's bleeding, and then the dog does something particularly awesome.
Well, the dog kind of rips her dress off.
It just stands up and pulls a tag at the back of the dress, causing it to fall off in one sheer.
You're not quite sure why he does this, but
well, I assume it's part of the act. So like as the story goes on, we discover that she is a stripper basically, and that the dog is part of her act. And my understanding is at the end of the act, the dog raises itself up onto her shoulders with its paws and drops her dress in front of the audience.
We should inform the wary viewer that don't worry, it doesn't go full Linda Lovelace dog territory.
No. Although it is weird, and it's definitely something that the earlier film version kind of elides. Like the dog is in there, but the dog's not part of her act. Although her act in the movie, and that's the one thing I don't mind about the movie, is the casting there. I do think Anita Ekberg is pretty close to how I pictured this character in the book.
Yeah, so basically when she gets totally starkers, I mean our protagonist, I mean he's just mesmerized, right, by this naked woman. It's a nice little, I don't know, it's because it's in a way this book is 1949, right? So it's interesting, it's on that kind of cusp between, there's a kind of limit to how much you can get away with it, but if you're a smart writer, you can also kind of, like Fredric Brown obviously is, you can layer on the sleaze a little bit. And he's surprisingly it's surprisingly sleazy, this book. I was like, whoa, this is more edgy than I would have expected for this time. But this whole scene also is very interesting because it's where, so this has been adapted to film officially once, right, as Screaming Mimi, and then unofficially once by Dario Argento as the Bird of the Crystal Plumage. And this scene is really, really well done in his film, right? When Tony Musante shows up and sees this thing going on behind this plate glass window and he can't get in to help, and he's not quite understanding what he's seeing, that part of this is really interesting to me because that's what happens here, right? Everyone thinks they've seen one thing, but as the story unfolds, maybe they haven't. Right. Yeah. I suppose Bird of the Crystal Plumage is a very, very loose set. It's almost more inspired by, although parts
the
of
artist shows up. We do get. Is it Bud Spencer?
I don't think so.
Who plays? Oh, it's Mario Adolph, maybe.
Right. Yeah. No, it's not
Mario Adolf playing Bud Spencer. Yeah.
I can't remember. I just watched it, but
shows up as anyway. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So back to the book, and so then, and it turns out there has been a series of other Ripper murders, right? Women have been killed.
Yeah. All blonde, all beautiful.
So they think that this might have been another failed attempt in this line of murders. So obviously, then he goes away and investigates. And the Screaming Mimi refers to a statue, right? This kind of horrendous statue-looking thing, which becomes a kind of a clue and a MacGuffin. And I don't know, beyond that, if we really want to, it's basically a detective trying to solve this case, and yeah, it has like a surprise. It has a kind of, yeah, like I said, really kind of a ludicrous. When it's all revealed, it's quite contrived and silly, really, when you look back over it. But the writing
Sure.
so much fun. I mean, for me, I enjoyed reading it all the way through, and then when it got to the ending, I thought, all right, yeah. But that didn't spoil my experience of reading it.
I knew as soon as I had read the thing that this was an uncredited inspiration for Bird with the Crystal Plumage, I knew what the ending was going to be.
Okay.
I was waiting because that is exactly the ending, and it's exactly in that way. It's the same psychological profile, right, and the same trigger, and the artist is involved, and there's a piece of art that's connected to the original moment of this, flipping in the brain, and so all of that stuff. Yeah, I was like, oh, it's surprisingly, you're right. The details are different, but the shape of the story is kind of the same in some ways.
Yeah, so I think it's Fredric Brown's clever, kind of witty, very self-aware writing is what makes this a fun, and it is a fun read. And I think I'm getting quite into Fredric Brown. Especially we'll talk about more with the second book, even more so. But this might not be a personal favorite, but it was a fun read, and I can imagine stumbling across another Fredric, because this is probably the most well known of his crime books.
This and the Clip Joint, which I'm interested in reading.
Yeah, well, I'm certainly interested to read. What I mean is, I'm yet to have read my fill, right? Like I might.
Oh yeah.
If I read 4 or 5 other ones like this, which were, as good, but maybe not necessarily next level, I might be. I've enjoyed this meal, yet but now I am a little full, and I want to fix my palate something else. But I'm not at that yet, so it's entirely possible I might end up reading. I know someone put out a couple of years ago. Someone put out the entire collected Fredric Brown short stories.
Right.
I think in like 5 volumes, maybe. And I almost snapped them up, even though I wasn't a Fredric Brown fan yet. I almost snapped them up because I suspect they're going to increase in value.
Right.
Yeah, so even though we're not allowed to say this on the show, I would say I thoroughly enjoyed. Well, I'm allowed to say it. You're just not.
Yeah.
Say it in a different way, because I'm guessing sounds as if you got along with Screaming Me too.
Yeah, I did. It was very easy to read, and I mean that in the most positive way, right? All great books are easy to read. It's like, again, a book that reads itself almost. Every time I sat down to it, I was immediately back into the story, back into the comfortable, languid, funny prose. As I said, just as much description as I need, not more. And then this weird darkness, irony, meanness that was in there, that was just a little more than I expected from a book of this vintage. And then, as I said, I was just disappointed by the film adaptation, which I think missed all of that. That was what it was missing, really, was just that.
Yeah, so the film from 1958, black and white, I mean, it's... Oh, actually, just before we go to that, did you get the Kindle with the extra short story at the end?
I did, yes.
Yes, Satan's Search Warrant, which is a great title. This was also quite good. Did you read this?
No, actually, it's funny. I read the first page or two and I realized it wasn't more of the book. So I was like, I'll come back to this later on, right? Because I wanted to get onto the mind thing. So
it's worth reading. It's quite a fun little. Yes, it's a fun little short story. Again, nothing revelatory, but I think you'll enjoy it. I think you'll. Yeah. So the film 58, black and white from Columbia. I think the
Can I just start by saying I think biggest mistake is maybe front loading a part of the story that doesn't come to much later in the book.
Yes, it tells it in a different order. It kind of sorts it out, right, chronology wise. Which
Yeah.
isn't necessarily the best idea for a mystery,
Nope.
unless you're, a Columbo episode or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I found that a weird choice, and then it robs us of instead having the film open with our protagonist lying in a ditch somewhere, drunk out of his mind.
Well, he's
Yeah,
not, right. The Philip Carey version is
yeah.
not not a wino,
No.
and he's
In
quite
fact,
boring. To
yep.
be honest, he's not. There's something a bit smarmy about him, but not in the likable way.
Yep.
Book, right? He's just. I didn't like him. He's a bit.
No, he sucks. And then he's a
Philip Carey.
nightclub. He's a nightclub reporter. What the hell is that? They had somebody on staff who just went to nightclubs and reported.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I suppose where is it supposed to be? Chicago. I mean, they do have for like the New Yorker has, right? So I'm guessing Chicago's a big enough city. Maybe there is a nightclub reporter. I can just about see that. But yes, as you mentioned, at least they did have good sense to have Anita Ekberg pre-Dolce Vita as
she's definitely
dancer.
the best thing about this, and does pretty closely match up with what I was imagining when I was reading the book.
And interesting to see Gypsy Rose Lee, the real burlesque legend, as the woman who runs a kind of poking fun at herself a little bit.
Yes,
she's the slightly over the hill, who kind of forces her routine a little bit on the character.
Yeah,
there's even a gag about it, right? Where this is another thing I noticed actually. After I noticed this, I noticed someone else had noticed it, and it's IMDb trivia. But so they have in the opening credits, and then they have the Red Novo Trio, right? This is the jazz combo,
endless xylophone, endless xylophone music. Yes,
I didn't find the music. But what interested me is the Red Novo Trio is clearly a quartet.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
I counted them several times with my finger and in a loud voice because I'm a bit stupid. 1, 2, 3. Yes, 4. Yes.
Yeah. No, that guy's really enjoying playing the xylophone. There's no question. Like every time we cut to him, he's like, and there's a lot of him.
I'm assuming
surprising amount.
Mr. Red Novo himself.
I'm guessing. But I did start to think at least the film is like conjuring up what it would be like. I'd imagine that's what it is like inside a madman's brain. Just endless looped xylophone music. But I thought, the guy that they cast to play her brother, the sculptor, was like way too old and like didn't in any way match up with the quite cool character I felt, like kind of sad, messed up, also drunk, mess of a character that's in the book. It's just, I don't know, it felt like it had burnished off all the interesting incrustations and left us with this very kind of staid and stolid and kind of boring.
I mean, the first time I saw the film back in the day, I wasn't overly impressed with it then, but I thought, well, it's okay. And, I always appreciate a bit of kind of sarcastic, noirish dialogue and stuff like that. But then, comparing it to the book, it doesn't do it a favor. Right? It went down a little bit in my estimation rather than... I mean, it's not a terrible film by any means, but it's just, I
was excited maybe because I thought it would have it would be like some sort of weird American proto-giallo because of what else this book has inspired, right?
Right.
And it's not that. Like, in fact...
No. Although it does have a slight, not now so much, oddly enough, but I remember when I was younger, when I first saw it, it did have a slight cult reputation. I'm wondering if it was the association with Bird of the Crystal Plumage.
I would imagine.
Because it is, I suppose it's a little risque for its time, I suppose, for a major studio.
Yeah.
Film.
But it's just it's so milquetoast compared to the book.
Directed by Gerd Oswald. Who interestingly directed a whole bunch of really interesting episodes from the original run of The Outer Limits. That's kind of what he's most famous for. So has done some quite interesting work.
I will say that the print that you directed me to, that's on YouTube, is gorgeous. And like, I've noticed also with the cinematography. I mean, it's all nice. It's good, nice chiaroscuro, darks, lights. You know, I mean, it's beautifully shot. That side of things is fine. I was also disappointed by Raoul. All kind of an interesting character in the book for what little we see of him. You know, he is the gay owner of the antiques shop where the meat is bought, and he's quite flamboyantly, flamingly awesome.
There's a scarf in the film.
Yeah. And in the film, he's really not. I mean, he's not coded as, and it made me realize that actually, although I hadn't pictured him at all when reading the book, because I had pictured somebody maybe of more, ethnic persuasion, maybe with the name Raoul, like. But then when I was watching the movie, I was like, oh yeah, no, because the guy in the movie who has the scarf on and the kind of the mustache, if they had got John Waters to play Raoul, that would work, right? Because I could totally believe he would have bought this ugly, horrifying statue of this girl screaming and kind of, that would all make sense if it was John Waters.
Right.
So there's my fantasy casting.
Okay. Yes. Not to have been, though, because I think he was about 15 or younger when this.
Yes, then it might not have worked as well, and would have had long, greasy hair and stuff.
Yes. So I did rewatch Bird of the Crystal Plumage as well, just out of curiosity. I still don't get on with this film. Yeah, boring Musante. Susie Kendall's pretty hot in it. And Eva Renzi is the victim at the beginning. I thought she kind of got an interesting look. And you got Morricone score. I didn't realize. I forgot it was shot by Vittorio Storaro as well, right? So it looks great.
Yes, it's a good looking film,
but it's so boring. It's so amazingly boring, and it's so early on in the cycle as well of what would it's not even. It doesn't really have any really stylish, super gory kills.
No, there's not much gore in it.
And the whodunit anime, Antonio Musante is just not an interesting lead.
Well, I mean, yes.
I really don't get the love for Bird of the Crystal. I understand people who might like, it's an interesting footnote to films he'd made, but people seem to really, really like Bird of the Crystal Plumage. And I don't get it, but as we know from doing the Lenzi thing, I have a slight problem with I obviously don't really get giallos
at all. Yes.
Not at all. I get the stylish, cool killing, gory set piece side.
But you need yours trash. I think you need yours trashier. I think you need to push towards the more the scuzzier side of things. So you want some Ivan Rassimov in there doing some sketchy stuff.
Honestly, Bird of the Crystal Plumage, I was watching and I was thinking, I don't even know if you'd have to edit anything out from this, and it would
be shown on TV.
You could put in the slot on like a Sunday evening where Poirot or Miss Marple or something is to play. Like it's really not. I don't get it. I just don't get it. It's very average film for me.
I haven't seen it in quite a while, so I don't know if I dislike it as much as you do, but it's never been on my top 5 giallos or anywhere close.
Right. But anyway, let's talk of more fun things. Let's talk about Fredric Brown's 1961 science fiction novel, The Mind Thing. Now, as much as
short book, I always appreciate that. It's like a good punchy little.
Yeah, I read most of it in one sitting as well, because I enjoyed Screaming Mimi, but I really enjoyed
awesome
thing. So basic premise here is there's some sort of alien organism.
Turtle.
Yeah, it seems to be in like a little protective turtle shell thing.
But with no head or legs. It's just
Yeah,
this
and
sealed,
it's like
almost
a
sealed unit.
consciousness in a shell, right, to protect
Mhm.
it. And
It's being beamed to Earth because it's a great criminal. It's like it's the Thomas Million from Almost Human of its own planet, apparently. So it's been beamed from its own planet via some sort of like interstellar
beam.
Beam, I guess. Yeah, that's what it would be. And it just appears in the forest in Michigan somewhere. And that's where we kind of begin. So I'll say just one thing that I liked about this book right away was that for a while, the book seemed to be following it more than it was following any of the human characters.
Yeah.
Like, is this my protagonist? This is unexpected and kind of cool. And then by the time you get to the end of the book, you're sort of like, I wish we'd go back and hear more about what it's thinking right now. Like, I feel like that's my only complaint, is that you start identifying to a certain weird degree with the thing and kind of hoping maybe it will.
Yeah, so he's part of some kind of advanced a kind of campaign or something to find other inhabitable planets for these, I guess they're sort of parasitic creatures, I guess. And
yeah, on their own planet, apparently they evolved in the water where they absorb nutrients through their shells. And then at a certain point, land-dwelling creatures evolved, and they realized that they could reach out with their mind to take them over. And then this is how they've survived and evolved ever since, is by taking over. And he's super stoked by the opposable thumbs. Like when he gets it, he's like, "Oh my god, this is what we've been waiting for. These things are amazing."
So the rules are, because that I think that's the important. It reminded me a little bit of the fun I had reading this book. Is the way it sets out its stall is not a million miles from that great childhood game that everyone can relate to. You know that game, like you have to go from here to there without touching the floor.
Yes.
It's got that kind of, and it works because you notice almost any film that tries to do this premise is inherently watchable, no matter how terrible it is. So there's that film, the Sand, from a few years ago. There's either an Escape Room or Escape Room 2, or there's other films, all these films that have that something of variation. It doesn't matter how good or bad the film is. You kind of want to watch that film as soon as you know it exists. Oh, a film! You don't touch the lava game, right? I suppose is what kids call it nowadays, isn't it? Just don't touch the floor. Just go from here to over. So this has the same kind of. So it sets out the rules.
The stepping stone rule. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So the rule is, so basically, it's funny because it's arbitrary, really, but because Fredric Brown's clever, he's made it a fun bit of arbitrary. So. So this mind thing, within a radius, a small radius from where it is, it can take over the mind of any other living creature as long as the creature is asleep.
Right.
When it's asleep, he can enter and then take over, right? And
but
then
while he's in there, his shell is empty of its consciousness.
Yes, and has to be hidden somewhere. So no one steals it, or So the shell is and it's important. He still needs the shell. So whatever animal he takes over, he has to make sure the animal puts the shell somewhere. And plus, because of this radius thing, he has to the shell has to be moved nearer or further from whoever the next target.
Potential host.
Yeah. You can take over like birds and then fly the bird around and do like recon of the area. Cats he uses as well. Lots of animals.
But he also, in his shell form, he also has this weird thing where he has a lower amount of, that he can see or whatever, right? But that vision allows him to see directly through objects.
Like
see in like a sphere. He can see under the earth, and he can
I'd love to see them try and pull off a film adaptation of this, how they go about it.
Well, I was just realizing, I haven't seen The Hidden in a long time.
It's similar. Is
The Hidden? I feel like The Hidden is slightly.
Yeah, absolutely. But the only way he can get out of whatever he's thinking of is if the creature he's in dies. So there's loads of awesome scenes of him, making various animals commit suicide. Some of
the very first one really in the book that we come across is like a little dormouse. that he's forced to how can I make this mouse commit suicide?
Yeah, and then he's back in his shell again, and then he has to find another. So basically, he's trying to kind of climb the evolutionary ladder to find someone smart enough. And meanwhile, there's all these the story starts. The main kind of driving force is a young man kills himself, right?
Yeah, he's out boning his teenage. Well, they're both teenagers. His teenage fiance, and the mind thing
It's all right
recognizes
if he does it, Nick, not if you do it. And
yes,
he basically runs around naked, and then
yes, pair of socks on,
which is great. Again, if they were to do a film, I hope they do it properly, because it would be kind of fun.
Flapping around the place, and then he runs up. He buries the mind thing in a cave, so it's going to be safer. And then so what? Actually, this is what I loved about this, because I wasn't joking when I said he's like the Thomas Millian of Almost Human at the beginning of the story, because much like Thomas Millian's character in Almost Human, he flips the fuck out every single time somebody comes too close to him, or like at the beginning of the story, he's like he has lots of regrets later. He's like, oh, I really didn't handle that well. I shouldn't have just immediately had that guy jump off a cliff or hack his wrists open. I might be drawing attention to myself by always like flipping out. But he does that at the beginning of the story. And
the other thing we find is he doesn't really have any empathy, right? But he learns like not to make too many people kill themselves. Not because he cares, but just like it'll draw
other humans do.
Yeah, exactly. And at one point he makes a whole thing about, I don't understand why they made such a fuss about a person killing themselves, or like absolutely zero empathy, right?
Yeah.
But he's certainly the mind thing is a fun protagonist. I agree with it. And as the story progresses and you become more, it fills in more the gaps of the logistics of how far away everyone lives in this rural area, and how he has to kind of use one animal to inch a little bit closer and then kill it. And it actually becomes quite thrilling, almost like watching like a chess match or something. Like, how is he gonna, because it's always one step forward, two steps back kind of. And like I said, that whole don't step on the floor kind of logic. So I really got into this. I didn't expect to quite get so absorbed in. It was a real page turner. And then eventually, our other protagonist turns out to be...
Second protagonist emerges out of the story. It's the MIT professor.
Doctor who
drinks
a lot of beer in the daytime, I have to tell you.
He's a day drinker, for sure. I do, and then, he also develops an attachment to the local, school marm, English teacher, librarian, whatever the hell she is. But I did kind of like the subtle asides at like the... initially when he takes over the boy, he's like, this kid knows fuck all of world politics and like geography. Like, he's like, this kid's brain is useless. And then, he takes over the even stupider and more like, narrow-minded, old German guy who,
the Nazi.
Farm, basically the Nazi. And there's this kind of element.
Characters I like, because you learn the backstory of each person that he happens, and you learn that this guy is basically like always been loyal to the fatherland. And even during the war and everything. I mean, he didn't join a Bund or anything, but basically he was fully in support of the Nazis. And so it's nice. It's a lot of color. I mean, I really appreciate Fredric Brown like just marking out the territory, the rules, and okay, let's play. And it's very playful. And I don't want to get into spoilers and how because you want to find out yourself. But by the time you get to scenes of people trapped in a house because they're being dive bombed by suicidal ducks, I was wow, this book's great. And it's true, the end is a little bit painted into a corner, abrupt, but I don't care, because I've had so much fun in the 3-4 hours it's taken
getting there.
And I'm just give me some more, because I think he wrote a lot more crime than he did science fiction. But the 2 SF books I've read now, this and Masters Go Home, I'm ready for some more Fredric Brown science fiction straight away. And I think there's a collection of his, I think he did sci-fi short stories as well for things like Galaxy magazine and stuff like that. So how did you get on with this? Was my favorite of the 2 books.
I liked them both, actually. I would say I probably enjoyed them equally, but you're right. This one is definitely more to use a word we use too much in the show, propulsive. This thing, once you start reading it, yeah, I think I read it in 2 sittings, which is rare for me at this point to read. Because I got lost.
Dosage.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, speaking of this, just reminded me. I love the use of the word, and it's used twice. Dottle.
Yes. The tapping out the
bottom of a pipe, and I knew that. I haven't used that because I'm not a pipe smoker. I hadn't, and I don't subscribe to Pipe Smoker magazine, so I hadn't heard the word dottle for a long time. But dottle is an immensely satisfying word.
Yeah, agreed. And the idea of a little clump of like wet,
tapping out your dottle. Yeah.
Yes.
It does sound like a euphemism when I say it.
It does definitely.
But most things do when I say it. I'm just going to tap out some dottle.
Yeah. No.
This is one of those ones. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm not immersed enough. But I feel as if this isn't. I don't know how like well regarded the book is, and I don't know overstate it either, because I think I think this is a book that benefits from coming into it cold, right? Like I think if someone built it up too much, that wouldn't work. Because it's not like a monumental classic of science fiction or anything like that. But it's just fucking fun as fuck, right? It's just really good time. Go out on your balcony, get some cheese, get some wine, give yourself 3-4 hours, and have a ball. I mean, it's as fun as, instead of watching don't watch Zack Snyder's latest film this Saturday.
Yeah.
Read the Mind thing instead. It's like, it's cheaper. It's like Kindle is a couple of dollars or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's as good as a time as tapping out your dottle.
Oh, I don't know about that. I do like tapping out.
I would say that when I've read about this, or I've read about it in connection with Gokei, Body Snatchers from Hell, as this as having been as being an inspiration specifically on the idea of the mind parasite that has to kill its host before it can move on to another.
Well, this is what led me to actually choosing the book. Was I was doing other research. I can't remember what I was watching, some tokusatsu or something, and then I went down a rabbit hole and I found out that Gokei started life as originally it was going to be some sort of TV series, and I wasn't sure how accurate, because I was translating documents in Google and stuff as well from Japanese to English to help me read them, and there was mention of the mind thing being a possible influence on the Japanese film Gokei, which is a film we both enjoy. I didn't have a chance to rewatch Gokei, and it's been a while since I saw it, so I was interested so for me, I couldn't I didn't have a take on whether I thought this was
me neither.
How about you?
No, I can't necessarily say one way or the other, but it's an interesting connection to make.
But you did mention, because I honestly don't remember, so in the film, what was it necessary for the horse to die before the Gokei?
I thought so. I think in each, because it almost becomes a bit like a horror slasher film where like they're dropping one by one, and you're kind of trying to figure out, I mean, that whole thing. I mean, that's always an exciting premise, the idea of like who is it, like where is
like the thing as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very much. Yeah.
So no, I'm keen to, because I haven't seen Gokei for a long time, and I remember really enjoying that film. And now, of course, there's I think there's a Blu-ray, there's a HD out there.
Yeah, it's a Criterion.
Wow. Okay, so I'm very keen to rewatch Gokei and see. I might try.
Criterion put it and Genocide, the bug one, out.
That's right. They're in that Shochiku box set, and Living Skeleton, and maybe one other thing, X from Outer Space, maybe, or
I think maybe
4 films. In
that. But no, they are, because I've seen them actually sometimes they'll show up on Turner Classic Movies on their like Janus Films night, which they do once a week, where they'll show a couple of Criterion films. And I have a copy of actually on my DVR thing here that I taped off TV of Gokei. And it's a beautiful, obviously pristine.
It's definitely a film that I need to take another look at, especially since when I was researching as well, the other thing I didn't realize the first time I saw it was the main kind of protagonist who plays the plane hijacker or whatever the hell he is apparently he was a Japanese chanson singer was his main thing.
Yeah.
And he's in a few other things as well. And in some things I think he appears like in a nightclub in that capacity. So I'm kind of interested to see him pop up in other things.
And it's got What's Her Pickle as well from Genocide in it. The blonde.
Yes.
Yeah. She's always good.
So
yeah, I would recommend both of these books heartily. And I don't think I need to be any more, I need to put any caveats on that or any like if you're a fan of this or that or the other. No, if you like to read sentences, and these are books full of sentences that are lots of fun.
Certainly, if we're going to go from the other end, I would say if you don't like reading sentences, this and all other books in the world are not for you. So and you shouldn't really be watching this.
Probably not.
Although I suppose it would be a different way to consume books. Rather than read a good book, why don't you listen to two pale faces
tapping out their dottle.
So so we'll be back with some more dottle tapping next time. Until then, I think we're a couple of new Fredric Brown converts, right?
Yeah. If you do find a turtle-shaped object buried somewhere near your home, however, you may want to alert authorities. Yes.
Or
if there's a series of insect or cat suicides in your area, you may also want to check it out.
Give the turtle to a karate master rat that you might know who lives in sewers, and train it to do good in the world instead.
But under no circumstances give it to an Italian jungle film director, because nothing good will happen there.
No. See you then.
Yep.